Hey there, welcome back, sports fans. As we are recording this episode, it is December 30th, New Year's Eve tomorrow, Darren.
That's right.
Is it kind of strange that some folks they're going to hear this in 2025? We record it in 2024. Is that like
I,
something to
th-
do with the time space continuum, quantum physics?
I think there's definitely, was it 2.11 gigawatts involved in that somewhere? I got to be honest. I think there's, I don't know where exactly it falls and all that sciencey stuff, but I'm pretty sure that that's somewhere in the middle of it.
So by the time this podcast, the signal is transmitted to wherever our farthest reaching
hmm
space satellite is, how long would that take?
uh, According to the movie, what was that movie? Contact. According to that movie, Contact, a good 40 years for it to get there and back. So how's that for an old movie reference?
So by the time they hear it and give feedback, you and I, we're dead.
Correct. That's correct. We're almost as bad off as some of the SEC's defenses. Oh wait, never
Oh,
mind.
that's a great segue, my friend, to what we're going to talk about on this final episode of 2024. And that is as we look back on the SEC season, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I feel like we need some music or a Clint
Yeah.
Eastwood reference,
Dun, dun,
something.
dun. Yeah, or the I can't do that. I don't have that whistle in me. Sorry.
But I heard it. It sounded the
There you
spirit
go.
came through.
There you go. That's what I needed right there.
So we want to start with the good. You want to start with the good news, or you want to start with the bad, the ugly?
So we'll start with the good, but it's not the good that we're going to be talking about in just a minute. Let's talk about bowl records and see who has a good, what conference maybe has a good, a bad, and the ugly. But let's start with the good because the SEC is not bad, not ugly, but I mean, we can at least say good, right? The SEC, as of time of recording, let's say it that way, is 5-3. Uh, Unfortunately, the three losses could fit into the ugly. Some of those weren't very good, but they're at least 5-3, which puts them at a 625 winning percentage, which is upper level when you stack it against all the other conferences. Let's go ahead and get the ugly out of the way. Hello, ACC. Whew. They are at time of recording 1-9 with a 100 winning percentage, 100 winning
Wah,
percentage.
wah,
Yeah,
wah.
that's rough. They by far have the ugly prize. And even though the games haven't been these barn burners where you see them play against, enormous like group of four or power four um, opponents. That was the word I was looking for there. The AAC, the American Athletic Conference, is 6-1 with an 857 winning percentage. So you got to give them props. And of course, the independents are 2-0, but that's not a conference, so we'll just whatever. We're not going to. Although one of those independents that's Navy, right? Aren't they one of the independent? Or no, it was UConn and Notre Dame are the two independent wins. That's who it is. Um, so yeah, we're not going to worry about that. But got to give props to the AAC being 6-1 and 857 winning percentage. And like I said, when you stack Big 12, SEC, Big 10, when you look at those three, SEC's just below the Big 12. The Big 12's 4-2, but both those conferences are doing better than the ACC or the Big 10. So that's what matters, right?
Sure. And there's still some more football to be played, so those
That's right.
records will fluctuate some. But
Absolutely.
overall, not too bad for the SEC, as you mentioned, a
No.
couple of bad losses in there. But
Yeah. But still, 5-3. When you look at some of the opponents that the SEC has played, I think is a pretty good mark at this point. Because, like you said, we've still got Texas and Georgia. Because this is not just bowl; it's postseason. I should have said it that way instead of just bowl. So you still got Texas and Georgia that can really notch up those numbers over the next couple of weeks, hopefully.
All right, Darren, when I was growing up, I always wanted the bad news before the good news because I wanted something good to hear at the end, something that might
Absolutely.
redeem what I've already heard before then.
Absolutely.
So, as we look back at the SEC, the good, the bad, and the ugly, let's start with the ugly from 2024, Darren. For you, what was the ugly?
Unfortunately, I referenced it just a couple of minutes ago, the defenses in the SEC. And I think on both sides of the ball, we had some options this year, but I'm going to go with what I think is the most obvious choice for the ugly this year because it's not just this year, it's the Kentucky offense, the overall state of the Kentucky offense. They are now, we know for sure, that they will have their fourth starting quarterback next year in as many years. Over the last, what will be 5 or 4 years, they've had now three, or they're on their fourth offensive coordinator. One of them technically was a return, but still, it's been a change in offensive coordinator 4 times, which at least they do have that carry forward next year. And Brock Vandergriff, I mean, he came to Kentucky to kind of be that quarterback they've been looking for with Devin Leary and Will Levis and some of the guys they've had in, and the offense went so poorly for him, he just gave up on football. So I don't know how you I don't know how you don't describe that as
Oh,
ugly. I mean, to accomplish all the things they've accomplished over the time that Mark Stoops has been there, um, it's just amazing how every single year, no matter what changes they make, no matter what they do, there's a step down every year over the last 4 years, or from kind of that pinnacle of 4 years ago. There's been a step down, and it seems to get uglier and uglier. And there's transitions and difficulties and people leaving every single year. So for me, when I look at the landscape of all of the teams, the SEC, that's one of the ugliest things that I see uh, currently, I guess, within the conference. Is the ugly of the Kentucky offense. How about you, Ben?
it was pretty ugly. It
It
was
was
really, ooh,
rough. Yeah, it was rough.
yeah. Hmm. The ugly for me would be, unfortunately, I hate to say this, Oklahoma's inaugural season in the
Mm,
SEC. Such a proud, storied program. I've got cousins in Oklahoma that are Sooners fans, and I don't, by no means am I attempting to throw any shade here because every team has these rough seasons. Hello,
absolutely.
uh, Coach O's last season at LSU. There's an
Oof.
example of that.
Yeah.
We all go through it, but I expected Oklahoma to do better. They had the issue with the offensive coordinator. They benched Jackson Arnold. I think now they're looking for a defensive
Right.
coordinator. They finished overall 6-7, 13th in the SEC with a
Oof.
2-6 mark. That's pretty ugly, unfortunately, for Sooner fans.
Huh.
But Sooner fans, all is not lost. You got a new quarterback coming. You're going to improve. You're going to get better. I know it's rough right now, but hang in there. Hang in there. I think this program is going to rebound. They've been through a lot worse in the past, and they've managed to survive. And I
Very
think
true.
I think they'll find their footing in the SEC. Darren, what was the bad for you?
This is going to sound weird. I paused because I even had a moment of should I switch what I'm going to say? Because when I say the team, people are going to say, okay, how was that the bad? So I think the bad that really stands out to me is Texas A&M's season. And let me again, I know that sounds crazy when you compare this year to let's say the last 3 years with our buddy Jimbo. I know this year, what did they ended up with? Was it 8 wins? Is that right? Um, yeah, 8 wins. But to me, what makes their season ugly is every single time they had the opportunity to solidify a spot, take advantage of a national spotlight, push themselves to an incredible story of coming from where they were with Jimbo to having a double digit win season, having a 10-win season, starting right out of the gates with the loss to Notre Dame. That looked even worse in the first couple of weeks. Doesn't look as bad now, but this might be SEC bias. I still think that's a game they should not have lost. I still think that is a game that A&M should have won. South Carolina getting blown out by 20 plus points. Auburn losing in overtime. You had the chance to make all of it go away with the Texas win. You're in the conference. You're going from where things were with Jimbo to being in the conference championship if you take care of business in that game. Now, again, Texas, not exactly a pushover. I understand that. I'm not. So I'm not. I don't think I'm being unrealistic, but I think what further proves the point that this qualifies as ugly more so than good is just what 3 days ago you've got a chance to get that ninth win, to get a win on a national stage against USC, which, regardless of what you think about anything that is USC or Lincoln Riley, when they're in a game, it's a national headline. So you have your moment, you have your chance. You grab that ninth win, you end on a high note, and they fell short again. To me, that consistent bad throughout the season for them makes it stand out as just a bad moment for them. Yes, they got out with 8 wins. Yes, they improved the program, but they had so many missed opportunities to make even bigger steps and to show even more about how far the program has come. And just about without exception, they failed to take advantage of every single one of those opportunities. I mean, they did take advantage of a few things, but for the most part, I would say honestly, they played Missouri. Missouri was in the top 10. They won that game. That was kind of what the one real shining moment. But outside of that, anytime they had an opportunity like that, they fell short. And to me, that's the bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah. That's the stuff that people will sit around and talk about during the off season, unfortunately.
Yeah. You were as tactful as you could be.
I tried to be because it's still an 8 win season and I am wearing a Vanderbilt cap. So, I'm trying to be tactful and realistic. So,
Well, the bad for me goes back to the first game of the season for LSU, losing to USC in Las Vegas 27-20. Another home opener disappointment for the LSU Tigers, but losing to USC made it even worse. Now, it doesn't help that Texas A&M ended the season with a loss to USC. Do we really want to give Lincoln Riley the chance to say, "Hey, I beat two SEC teams"?
I'd rather that never happened, truthfully.
But it was a bad look for LSU and the SEC to start the season. So that was my
Yeah,
bad for the year.
that's a great call. That's a good one.
Let's talk about some good news, Darren. What was your good this year?
Let's see. I'm trying to think of all the things in college football, especially SEC. Oh yeah, I'm going Diego Pavia.
Yeah.
That's my good. And the thing about it is he's incredible for Vanderbilt. His attitude, his moxie, his ability, uh, his athleticism, all of that is absolutely accurate. But it's not just a him being good for Vanderbilt thing. I mean, there was some very tense conversations among Vanderbilt faithful on Twitter that, okay, he's gotten this year of eligibility. What does that mean? I mean, this dude can play ball. Of course, no one would ever skirt around the rules and make offers ahead of signing a player. That would never happen. But just in case it were to happen, it's probably not going to be 50 and 75 and $100 that's being offered to
Yeah.
Diego Pavia. It's going to be some serious change thrown his way. And I have no doubt that those unofficial, off the books, through third parties, that they came from all over the place. I mean, even within the conference, think about some of the teams we've talked about, and some of the teams like an Auburn, or is another one that just what they wouldn't give to have someone like Diego Pavia in their offense. Um, and he just his athleticism seemed to excel and we've talked about this. We it's documented. We talked about this until the physical pounding just got to be too much. But then we saw again this past week when he has time to recuperate, when he has time to recover, when he truly is healthy. I mean, he was a beast in that Georgia Tech game. Part of 5 touchdowns. He ended the year with 800 yards rushing. And I've heard a couple of people talk about that, say, it's one of the top quarterbacks in the conference and even in the country, and that's accurate. But 800 yards rushing, that's not a bad day for a running back. I mean, those are some nice rushing yards. And with the whole getting the year of eligibility, to me, one of the most exciting things about him, it really puts him on my good can't for this year. Can't wait to see what next year. He has a legitimate possibility with 2 years at New Mexico State and 2 years at Vanderbilt of ending his collegiate career with 10,000 yards of total offense. I mean, he just needs to have a year like he had this year, a couple thousand yards passing, 700, 800 yards rushing. He's there. He's at 80 8,900, just about 50 yards short of 9,000 right now. So, I mean, he just has to have a decent season for him, and he's at 10,000 yards of total offense for his career. Goodness gracious. I mean, from a Vanderbilt perspective, when's the last time that came through Nashville? Well, I mean, just about never. I mean, I can, 1, 2, 3. I can probably name name the quarterbacks on my hand. Uh, but just in all of college football, I think he's a good just because of the positive that seems to be around him and what he's done for the game this year. So he is, without hesitation, my good for this year.
I kind of saw that coming, Darren, but that's a great one. How can you argue against that?
Yeah. At least I don't think it was a homer take. I think it's a legitimate take. So,
Oh,
how about you, Ben?
that's a great one. My good. We're going over to Columbia, South Carolina. The South Carolina
Mm.
Gamecocks. What an incredible season!
Oh
They
yeah,
are in position if they win their bowl game to win 10 games. They were the talk of the town. They they
yep,
they were the team that people were wanting to be in the playoff that didn't make the playoff.
yep.
Just an incredible story. Lenora Sellers, a bright future at South Carolina.
Oh
Shane
yeah.
Beamer's got the Gamecocks rolling. Look forward to big things from them in the future. But for me, that was really the good story, the best story I think in the SEC this year.
For their season to start the way they did, and for them to struggle even in non-conference games, you know, people were really, even with Lenore Sellers, people were taking shots at the offense. They were having conversations about Dow Loggins, you're exactly right. Talking about it being a great story. Not only did their offense excel, they have a chance to be a 10-win team, and you've got, goodness gracious, what's the future going to look like with Lenore Sellers? But Dow Loggins, who, including me, has been an opined decision since the day it was made, has catapulted it into a head coaching job. So, what an incredible year from top to bottom South Carolina had. Truly, like you said, one of the best stories in the game this season.
Yeah, of course, next to Diego, right?
Well, I mean, again, kind of without saying, yeah. That might be a homer take. That might be.
It's
I
all
might own
good.
up. I
It's all
might own
good.
up to that one.
Remember to enjoy the playoff games this week. There's
Oh
still
yeah,
more to be played. We made our picks in an episode last week. If you want to know what those picks are, go back to last week's episode. You'll see an episode with just the picks, which
hmm
we Darren and I give our prognostications, predictions, prognostication. What is that?
I don't. What is that one?
Prognostication.
I don't. I still don't
Pro.
know that.
I think
I
I
still.
just created a word.
I think you did. I think you took what words you're trying to say and crossed it with procrastinate, prognostications. That's what you're.
Prognostication. I am completely bamfoozled right now.
That, sir, was well done. I give that a 10 out of 10.
The English language is hard.
It is The words, they can be the hardest. That's right.
Well, we appreciate you sticking with us even when we have such faux pas in our native verbiage and trying to get the words correct, and we don't always do
Exactly.
that. So thank you for a great year 2024. We are continuing this
Absolutely.
season in 2025. So as we transition from football into basketball and then into
Mhm.
baseball, there's a lot more in the SEC to talk about. So stick
Absolutely.
along for the ride with us. We'd love to hear your feedback, your comments. Hit that like button, that subscribe button. That means a lot to us. We both hope, Darren and I both hope, that you have an incredible new year and it's just the
Absolutely.
best year ever, and spend a little bit of it with the Brew and Shaver Sports Podcast.
Absolutely.
New episodes typically come out around Tuesday. We can't be more specific than that because that would take away from the surprise.
Exactly. We want you to feel the excitement of when it happens. That's what.
But if you subscribe, you never have to wonder. You'll be notified.
Exactly.
So until next time, y'all take care.
Have a great week. Thank you for making the Brew and Shaver Sports Podcast your go-to sports show. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review our show if you haven't already. Your feedback is important. Let us know what you think about this week's show. Send an email to brewandshavers@gmail.com or text to our text line 318-390-3599. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you again for listening to the Brew and Shaver Sports Podcast. See you next week.